Hello everybody and welcome back to Expert Examiner IELTS. My name is Glyn and in this video we're going to do some more speaking test feedback. We're going to do feedback on Bishal's speaking test. So let's get straight into it. Good afternoon. My name is Glyn. Would you please tell me your full name?
Well, my name is Bishal, but you can address me Bishal.
Okay, this part of the test isn't measured, it isn't judged, but you can address me Bishal is incorrect. You can address me as Bishal, maybe, those rehearsed answers that we usually have at the beginning. Make sure we get those right. You can address me as somebody. Thank you, Bishal. Now, in this first part of the test, I'm going to ask you some questions about yourself. Do you work or do you study?
Well, at the moment, I am a student and I prepare for IELTS for my higher education
Cool, I'm a student and I prepare for IELTS, fine.
in abroad.
And why are you studying for IELTS? The question here is, why are you studying for IELTS?
Actually, I am studying IELTS in my cities
I'm studying IELTS in my cities. That doesn't really answer the question why, it answers the question where. I think the candidate just misunderstood.
because there are a lot of options to prepare for IELTS. And one well-known institute name is EXAS.
One well-known institute name is EXA. So grammatically, not very strong. One well-known institute name is, bit odd, but vocab is good. Well-known institute, very good.
I enrolled at the moment.
Cool. I enrolled. Enrolled is a really good topic-specific bit of vocab. And what are you planning to do when you finish these studies?
Well, after finishing my IELTS preparation, I just set up for my.
Cool. So after finishing, really good sequencing there. But then we get I just sit. This is a future time construct. This is a future time question, right? What are your plans or what are you going to do when you finish studying? We want to hear some future time constructions from the candidate, but it seems like he just uses present. Is that right? Let's listen again.
There I enrolled at the moment.
And what are you planning to do when you finish these studies?
Well, after finishing my IELTS preparation, I just set up for my main exam. And
I just sit for my main exam. I don't quite get that.
then I just try to
And then I just try to again. So the candidate is only using present tenses here, not using any future time constructions, which is a problem.
my dream country and go there and just finishing my higher education.
And what do you find easy or difficult about your studies? So we didn't really get an answer to that question. Why are you studying? And we didn't. We got an answer to like your plans after, but we didn't get any grammar connecting to the future. Yeah. So now, what do you find easy or difficult? Was that the question? Sorry about that. About your studies. Yeah, it's what do you find easy or difficult about your studies?
Well, I think studies is very difficult for everyone, but
Yeah, studying is very difficult for everyone. Okay, but that's too broad, right? This is part one. Part one is about you. What do you find easy or difficult about your studies? Not people in general. What do you specifically find easy or difficult about your studies?
I feel very enjoying at the moment.
I feel very enjoying. The question isn't how do you feel about your studies? The question is what is easy or difficult?
Because if you work hard, it's very easy for you. But sometimes I face a lot of difficulties. But that moment,
Okay, but we don't get any details of what the difficulties are. Is the difficulty like finding time to do homework? Is the difficulty understanding English grammar or, I don't know, understanding the instructions that your instructor or teacher gives you or doing the reading tasks or something like this? Specifically, what do you find easy or difficult? Not is it easy and not what do other people think about it and not how do you feel about it, but what specifically do you find easy or difficult about it? And we don't get an answer.
my parents and friends help me to encourage me a lot to I motivate and focus on my study.
Okay, your friends and your parents help you, but I don't know. If somebody asked me now, what does Bishal find easy or difficult about his studies, I would only have to say, I don't know, because he didn't say. Let's talk about television now. How often do you watch TV? Sorry, my audio isn't very clear in this. I do apologize. I hope my audio in this video is better. Um,
Well, at the moment, most of the people prefer to watching social media platforms
most of the people prefer to watching. So in English, we often have these infinitives to do, these gerunds doing, but we don't usually use like to doing. There are some constructions like look forward to doing, get used to doing, fine. But, prefer to do or prefer doing, not prefer to watching. It's quite a basic mistake.
like YouTube and Facebook. But I try to watching movies in my
Again, I try to watching. Again, I try to watch, I try watching, but I'm not, I try to watching.
leisure activities time. And but most of the time, I prefer to watching it.
Again, I prefer to watching. Candidate, so this seems to be a systematic error for the candidate. Obviously doesn't really understand this idea, this basic idea in English of gerund or infinitive. The candidate is kind of using a gerinfinitive, like to doing, prefer to watching. This is now 3 times in a short space of time.
YouTube's or Instagram.
And what kind of shows or programs do you like?
Well, at the moment, my instructor advised me to watching English
My structure advised me to watching, and again, advise me to watching. Yeah, so really clear candidate doesn't know what these gerunds and infinitives are. I'm not going to mention more of these problems with gerunds and infinitives. I will just say, though, that people from South India, people from South Asia, from India, from Bangladesh, from Pakistan, they tend to overuse these ing verbs. I don't know if they just don't understand quite how they work or what happens, but if I was a candidate from Bangladesh, it's one of the things that I would look at is how do these ing verbs work in English? When do we use these ing verbs? Because people from, like I said, people from Bangladesh, India, Pakistan tend to overuse these ing verbs.
podcasts and movies because it's helped me a lot to
It's help me. It is help me.
improving my listening skill. So I prefer to watching movies and some podcasts.
And you prefer what? Okay, but I prefer watching movies and podcasts, all good topic language. Watching alone or with friends.
Well, I like both because both is very enjoying. But
Both is very enjoying. Enjoying isn't an adjective, unfortunately. Enjoyable, that's an adjective. Enjoyable. Both of them are very enjoyable, but enjoying isn't an adjective. Sorry about that.
like at the moment, I am some very introvert and I focus on my study, and that's why I just prefer to watching alone.
Let's talk about exercising now. Do you like exercising?
Yeah, definitely because exercise is very crucial part in human being because
Okay, exercising is a very crucial part in a human being. That's a very general language. I like the use of crucial, fine, but I'm hoping the candidate will explain his ideas here.
when you exercise, it help me to keep your body fit.
Okay, when you exercise, it helps me to keep your body fit. So, we should say either choose the first person pronoun. When I exercise, it helps me to keep my body fit, or use the second person pronoun. When you exercise, it helps you to keep your body fit. All of that's fine, but we don't want to mix up those pronouns.
So I try exercise in morning time because it's very suitable time, and that moment I feel very fresh.
Okay. The question wasn't about when do you usually exercise, it's do you like exercising? But okay, bit of extra detail, fine. And how often do you exercise?
I try exercise regularly, but
I try exercise again, try to exercise, or it's better.
it's quite tough for me because I
It's quite tough. I like that.
balance my study pressure and my personal pressure with my family members.
Not sure about study pressure and personal pressure. I'm not sure.
But I try most in work exercise every day. But sometimes I just very busy with my study, so
Cool, but that's a full, complete answer to the question, right? He tries to exercise regularly. He tries to do it every day, but he can't always do it because he's quite busy with other things. Cool, nice development.
it's quite difficult.
And are there any kinds of exercising that you don't like?
Well, I like all kind of activities, but I'm a person who don't like
I'm a person who doesn't like. So now I don't like, but a person who doesn't like. Yeah, this is present simple. We would expect candidates to get present simple, right?
like to do in running because it's very it's require a lot of
Cool. It requires, I think he's trying to say.
energy to you running a lot of time. But it's not quite a big deal for me. I try.
Not quite, but it's not such a big deal. But okay, it's a very minor issue. And what do you usually do when you finish exercising?
After finishing exercise, I like
Cool. After finishing exercise, I like that sequencing.
to do shower and
Not I like to do a shower, but I like to have a shower. I like to take a shower, but we don't do a shower in English.
what just drinking a lot of water because it's helped me to dehydrate
Again, we get this. It is help me. It is help me.
myself. And after
Should be, of course, it helps me, not it is help me, but it helps me.
showering, it's feel me more fresh and relieve
It feel me more fresh. Yeah, that's a problem. It makes me feel fresher, but not it feels me more fresh.
my stress.
Okay, thank you. Now, okay, thoughts on part one. I really hope my audio is better because really my audio is terrible in that first in the test video. Okay, so thoughts on part one. Candidate shows good level of fluency, right? He answers the questions, he shows a willingness to develop. Questions aren't always on topic, and that's a worry. You know, what's easy or difficult about your studies? We don't get an answer. Why are you taking IELTS? We don't get an answer. Other questions about TV shows and about exercising, they stay on topic, pretty good. Vocab is fine. I think he does have enough vocab to comfortably deal with these topics. There are some cases like do a shower or it feels me more refreshed, which are a little bit strange, but in general, candidate does have enough vocab to speak about these topics relatively comfortably. Pronunciation is clear. I don't see any big problems with pronunciation yet. Does he have enough features of advanced pronunciation like connected speech, intonation, sentence stress, chunking, things like this? Not sure. I will have to listen in part two and part three to focus on that a bit more. Grammar is clearly a weakness. Like unfortunately, like many candidates in Bangladesh, I think they acquire the language very, very well and they communicate very, very well. But in terms of just grammatical accuracy, like even very basic things like present simple, basic things like infinitives and gerunds, candidate just doesn't show any awareness of this. When I asked him about future time, he just used present tenses. So yeah, grammatically we're not accurate. We don't have any real range. Some attempted complex grammar, like advise me to do something, it came out wrong. It came out as advise me to doing something. But you know, there are some attempts at more complex grammar. But unfortunately, I don't really need to think about the complexity of the grammar, the range of the grammar, because that accuracy is so weak. Especially, you know, the accuracy with basic grammar is weak. So it means I don't need to think about range because the accuracy is weak with basic grammar. So I already know what score the candidate will get for grammar. But let's get to part two. We'll see how his fluency is. We'll see if he's able to maintain a flow of speech for 2 minutes with a nice beginning, middle, and end. And your 1 minute of have between one
in culture
and your 1 minute of preparation time Sorry about that.
starts now.
Okay, so that's the end of your prep. Speaking now, please. Okay, sorry about that.
well, personally, I prefer to travel more because it's helped me to
Personally, I prefer to travel more because it's helped me. We don't want, I understand an introductory statement. I know in 2025, candidates preparing for IELTS learn about these introductory statements and things like this, but we want to make sure that we're on topic. I don't know, like, I prefer to travel more. Well, travel more than who. That's a comparative structure. So, if you are going to use an introductory statement, you have to make sure it's on topic. Okay.
Enhance my knowledge about different culture and history. So, well, today talk about trip I just visited in last year with my friends. Like last year after
A trip I visited. You don't visit a trip. You visit a place, so you have a trip.
finishing my intermediate exam, that meant I am free. So that meant my old friends prepare a trip in Cox's Bazar because
Pronunciation is getting a bit strange here, no?
old friends prepare a trip in Cox's Bazar.
Prepare prepare a trip in Casasuesa? Casasuesa? If this is the name of a famous place or the name of a town or a resort or a place in your home city, in your hometown, home country, please make sure that you pronounce this clearly and maybe add an extra sentence to say like which is a place in my city, because I'm not from Bangladesh, and if you name some random place in Bangladesh, just like if I name some random place in Wales, it's not going to be understood. So if I said to you something, oh yeah, I went to Castell Caerfyrddin last week, you're not going to know Castell Caerfyrddin because Castell Caerfyrddin is in the Welsh language and you don't speak Welsh. And so I would need to say I went to Castell Caerfyrddin, which is a famous place, so that it's in a town called Carnarvon, and Castell is the Welsh word for castle, right? So that paraphrasing and just that extra sentence would help me.
Because Cox's Bazar is very eminent place in my country.
Okay, we do get that. Sorry about that. We do get it's a very eminent place in my country. And okay,
And like a lot of foreign people came there.
a lot of foreign people came there. I don't know if we're talking about present or past time. I think present is suitable here, right? A lot of foreign people in general come there, or rather go there,
To visiting our culture and tradition. So we
to visit our culture and tradition. Again, can you visit culture? Not sure. Can you visit traditions? Not sure.
prefer to travel by train because it's very cheap.
Okay, now I prefer to travel by train. In general or for this trip? Because remember, your task here isn't to speak about what you prefer in general. Your task is to describe this trip, and so we want past time here. I decided to travel. Let's just listen again. Did he say prefer or decide?
And like a lot of foreign people came there to visiting our culture and tradition. So we prefer to travel by
We preferred to. Maybe he did say preferred with a duh.
train because it's very cheap
It's very cheap.
and convenient to use. So that's why we travel by train.
We travel by train. It certainly sounds like present time to me.
After traveling 8 to 9 hours, then we arrived in Cox's Bazar.
Again, it sounds like we arrive. Is he saying we arrived? Maybe there's an audio problem. I don't know, but to me it sounds like we arrive.
So Cox's Bazar is a beautiful place. I just unforgettable. This thing.
Okay, we don't want to spend too much time describing the place here, right? We want where you went, who you went with, what you did there, and why it was so memorable.
When I just arrived, this
Again, when I just arrive, sounds like present.
lot of accommodation are available there.
A lot of accommodation are available. This is definitely present time.
Like their local people, transportation, all kind of things is very amazing.
All kind of things is very amazing. So, all of these things are amazing. But okay, I should probably stop focusing on grammar because I know the grammar score the candidate is going to get. I want to listen a little bit to pronunciation.
So we just choose a 4-star hotel because our budget is very tight.
Budget is very tight. Great vocab. Really great vocab. Our budget is very tight. Should be, of course, was very tight, but okay. With the pronunciation, it is just a little bit staccato. You can hear like each word pronounced individually a little bit.
Accommodation are available there, like their local people, transportation, all kind of things is very
Oh no, this is okay.
amazing. So we just choose a 4-star
We just choose a poster. There's a bit of intonation in there
hotel because our budget is very tight.
because our budget is very tight. Okay, the chunking is okay.
So then like this hotel staff behavior is very gorgeous, and like then after
Okay, gorgeous is mispronounced there. Candidate says gorgeous. It should be gorgeous.
After 1 to 2 hours rest, we just arrived in the beach.
It is staccato now, isn't it? Staccato means pronunciation, like this way we pronounce each syllable. Just listen to it. It is a little bit staccato.
Rest, we just arrived in the beach and enjoy a lot of activities like some of my friends are swim.
Some of my friends are swim. Yeah, present simple. We have to, if you're a candidate who's taking IELTS and you don't know present simple, um, forget about IELTS for a while. Learn some basic grammar. I know it is the modern world. We don't worry about grammar as much as people used to worry about it, and in everyday life, you don't need to worry about it. But if you're hoping to get a good score in IELTS, you have to know at least the most basic grammar. And in English, I think about 60% of conversational speech um, conversational language in English is in present simple, 60%. So it's a lot, right? It's not an easy tense to learn, but you have to learn it. Present simple, that's the one that we use more than anything. And so you really have to know this present simple. And if you're using sentences like we are swim, yeah, it's not IELTS time, it's learn grammar time.
Some of my friends just join activities like
Some of my friends are just join activity, so they are join. Again, present simple.
writing board, parasailing, and scuba diving. Also, we just
Cool vocab.
played a football game
We do get pastime. We just played football games, so we get a bit of pastime.
because it's very famous games in my country, and we click a lot of picture. After
We click a lot of picture. That kind of makes sense.
uh, after spending a lot of time in
Take a lot of pictures is better, and of course, in the past, we took a lot of pictures.
the beach, we came at the hotel and rest again 1 to
Came, good, pastime, and rest. Incorrect. Rested, relaxed.
2 hours. Then we just
Don't really get a lot about why it's so memorable, right? We got a bit about the journey. We know he went there with his friends, he took the train because it was, a bit cheaper, they had a tight budget, and then we just get a long list of activities. But there's no real reflection about, why he's talking about this trip, why this trip was so memorable. You don't get much emotive language here. And he's running out of time.
start our exploration in this new place. We tried a lot of different cuisines like Chattogram and Cox's Bazar is very popular.
Now the candidate is really speeding up his speech. Just notice it
We
here.
tried a lot of different cuisines like Chattogram and Cox's.
Chokchorchang.
We tried a lot of different cuisines like Chattogram
You need to explain that. I don't know what that is.
and Cox's Bazar is very popular.
Just listen how fast it is.
1 to 2 hours. Then we just start our exploration in this new place. We tried a lot of different cuisines like Chattogram and Cox's Bazar is very popular for the seafood. We tried a lot of seafood and different kind of things.
Okay,
We
thank
made
you. So towards the end, he's really sped up there. It's too fast, and again, it's just become a list of what you did there, rather than we don't get nice beginning, middle, and end. I really like beginning, middle, end, and we really want to hit some of this emotive language, why it was so memorable, why you remember this trip. We didn't really get that, but candidate speaks relatively confidently, vocab is decent, grammar is weak, pronunciation is clear enough but maybe lacking the C1 features. Let's see how the candidate does in part 3. Thank you. All right, so you've been describing a journey or a trip that you went on. Let's talk about traveling now in general. Why do people like to travel?
Well, people love to travel for several reasons. Like some people prefer to enhance their knowledge about different kind of place.
So we got this before, right? Where candidate said he likes to travel because it helps him to enhance his knowledge, and now he's saying people like to travel to enhance their knowledge. And to me, that's a sign that it's kind of memorized language. We don't want to repeat, the same ideas over and over. But okay, not a big problem.
And some people prefer to spending some quality time with family members. So, for example, like I prefer to traveling for enhancing my knowledge about
Cool, but just be careful here. So one thing that examiners might one thing's easy to spot for examiners is, does the candidate speak about themselves or does the candidate speak about things in general? Now, in part one, we should speak about ourselves, but in part three, we want to speak about people in general. The question isn't, why do you like to travel? Now, I know you can talk about your own experiences to develop, that's fine, but we want to try to avoid using too much personal language in part three, because the task is to speak about things in general. Why do people in general like to travel?
different culture, heritage, history heritage, and a lot of different kind of things. So when I just arrive in new
When I just arriving, he's talking about himself, not people.
place, that moment I feel very serene, and I learn about different kind of culture.
Okay, I feel very serene. Pronunciation isn't great, but vocab is very good. I feel very serene. Serene is a nice adjective. And in general, how? So I'm really using this word in general now, trying to, give the candidate every chance. In general, in general, how has traveling changed in recent years? How has traveling changed in general? Not for you, but in general.
Well, recently it's changed rapidly. Like technology helps to people live easily in modern era.
Helps people to live easily. It doesn't talk about traveling.
Like transportation system, accommodation system
Okay, but how does the transportation system and accommodation system, how do those developments affect traveling?
is quite good in this moment compared to past,
Cool, but how does that affect traveling?
and people easily move anywhere, anytime.
People easily move anywhere, anytime. Um, yeah, I don't feel like that's very clearly explained.
So it's changed quite frequently in
Change quite frequently. Frequently talks about, how often. We're not talking about how often it changes.
this moment. For example, last year we visited in Cox's Bazar easily because the transportation system is very good
Again, he's talking about his own experience here.
to my city to the visited place.
And I don't want to say it's absolutely wrong to use any personal language in part three. Of course, you can use some if it helps you to develop. But in general, we want to stick to general language, people in general, rather than me or I. And in general, do you think it's better to travel alone or to travel with a group of people? So, again, in general, so not just do you prefer, but in general, is it better? I know it's difficult to get out of the personal language here, but we want to explore, different reasons why some people might want to travel alone and different reasons why some people want to travel with a group, and then, to offer your own opinion.
In my opinion, I often prefer to travel with
Again, I prefer to travel, but the question isn't what do you prefer? The question is, in general, is it better, this one or that one? And so you should speak a bit more generally, not just about you, but why, some the advantages and disadvantages of traveling alone or in general, or in a group.
groups because which time we travel alone, you face a lot of difficulties. So it's quite tough to handling alone in this situation. So if you travel with groups, it helps to easily survive in any difficult situation. So
We don't get details though, right? You can have some difficulties, you can survive in difficult situations, but we don't get details. And that's always something I think that, that difference between the band 8 and the band 7 and the band 6 and the band 5s is that detail. The band 5s and the band 6 can say, oh yeah, you can get into problems and then you can solve those problems. But those band 7 and band 8s, they give details. You can get into problems. For example, if you lose your wallet, then what will you do for money? If you're traveling alone, you can't really help anyone because you don't know anyone. That's a specific example that helps to demonstrate the point that you make. And I feel like band 5s and band 6s never give those satisfying examples.
I often prefer to travel by groups.
Can you give me an example of some difficult situation that could appear if you travel alone? And this is why examiners step in sometimes, because it's like, well, you didn't give me a specific example, so I'm going to ask you directly to give a specific example.
Well, I remember that when last year I visited a new place called Sylhet.
Again, candidate is speaking about himself and his own experience. We're looking for hypothetical examples of what might happen to any person, what difficulty a person, not you, what difficulty a person might have if they travel alone, not what is a difficulty that you had when you traveled alone. But okay.
At that moment, I faced a lot of difficulties, like I don't know this place, about this place, and
So what's the difficulty here? I faced a lot of difficulties because I don't know about this place.
like I don't know about the how much rate in transportation goods.
How much rate in transportation is that? I don't know. Is that a big problem if you don't know how much transportation costs if you travel alone? I don't know. It seems like an odd example.
So I faced a lot of difficulties, and also like
Again, we get a lot of difficulties, but again, I've asked for an example. The only example I've got is, you don't know how much transportation costs. That's a difficulty that could happen if you're traveling in a group too, no? I don't know.
that moment I face the pollution, and a lot of people are unknown that moment. So I just face being nervous. So when I travel by groups, that moment I feel very comfortable, and I don't feel any extraordinary thing. So yeah, it's a comparison between the alone or groups.
And why do some people prefer to travel alone?
Well, it's to the dependent people to people. Some people prefer to alone because they are
Bit of a problem in the connection here. Sorry about that.
very introvert and shy person, so they don't like to travel with groups
Cool. They're shy. They're introvert. They don't like to travel in groups. Good ideas.
because that moment they feel very uncomfortable. But in my country, most of the people prefer to groups. For example, I visited a lot of places in my country with my friends and family members, and I enjoy a lot of memorable trips.
Mhm. Um, how can tourism harm the environment?
Well, like tourism plays have both side, negative and positive side. Like
Sure, but we're not asking to talk about the positives and negatives here. The question directly asks you to talk about the harms to the environment.
tourism side influence the economic growth and unemployment
We're off topic here. We don't need to worry about economic growth. We want to focus only on the harms to the environment.
situation, but also its effect on environment like pollution.
Cool, pollution, good.
Like in modern era, a lot of people using transportation systems. So
Again, we get this repeat of transportation system. Now we've had transportation system, I think like 5 or 6 times in the test.
the environment is quite day by day is harm to
The environment is day by day is harm. Grammatically, yeah, there's just no. This does put a strain on the listener when you're hearing like day by day is. Oh, let's just listen to that again. Sorry.
like in modern era, a lot of people using
In modern, there are a lot of people using
transportation systems.
transportation systems.
So the environment is quite
So the environment is quite.
day by day is harm.
The environment is day by day is harm, something like this. That does put a big strain on the listener to try to make sense of what's being said. But okay, I can still understand the main idea.
To the transportation system. Also, like the lot of accommodation are built in tourist attraction place.
Again, we're back to accommodation. So candidate in part 2 and now part 3 is relying on this like transportation system and accommodation. It shows for me a lack of flexibility in vocab. I think his vocab throughout the test has been very good, but this repetition of these same bits of vocab, I don't love it.
So AC, gas, and a lot of chemical harm the environment.
And you mentioned that tourism has some positive effects on the economy. How can it positively affect the economy?
Like when any place are popular for tourism, that means like
When any place are popular, when any place is popular. candidate doesn't even reliably use this verb to be, like I am, you are, he is, she is, it is, we are, they are. Basic stuff.
In most of the country face unemployment problem. So
When a country is when a place is popular, most of the country face unemployment problems. I don't get that.
if any place are just famous for tourist attraction, that means a lot of people are the chance opportunity to get a job. Also, like it's improve the economic growth,
Okay, he's saying that tourism improves economic growth. It helps people find jobs. Okay, and idea is clear.
and also like people exchange their culture with new people and foreigner people. So it's quite positive for this country.
Okay, thank you. That is the end of the test. Okay, so again, I apologize for the audio quality there. Really, I don't know what's happening. I'll need to have a look at my audio settings and um, see if I can fix it. Anyway, let's get into some scores for this candidate. Fluency and coherence. I'm going to award a 6 here. So fluency is better than coherence for sure. In general, you show a willingness to speak at length. You don't have a problem, filling time and saying lots of things. Cool. Your connectives are pretty good. Especially your sequences, like after having a shower, you like this, like after doing something, I do something. But those are good. Those connectives are good. Sometimes your answers lack a little coherence, especially in part one. The answers didn't always quite match the questions. And there were some cases in part three, some answers were a little off topic and lacked some development, maybe just a little bit in part three. Yeah, I think 6 is probably fair. Candidate is fluent, candidate probably has fluency. Oh, I will add that thing. In part two, you sped up a little too much towards the end. So just be careful. We don't want to speak too slowly, but we also don't want to speak too quickly. In general, I think the speed of your speech was okay throughout the test, but there were, some cases in part two towards the end where you were just speaking a little bit too quickly, like you were trying to rush to make sure that you got everything inside the 2 minutes. We don't want to do that. Lexical resource. I'm really between the 6 and the 7 here. Now, I know I always underscore Bangladeshi candidates, so I'm trying to put myself in the shoes of an examiner in Bangladesh and see, what I might be undermarking. And maybe I'm undermarking vocab. And so for this reason, I'm going to give a 7. I was between the 6 and the 7. I didn't like, so let's start with some positives. In general, I've used in general. So you have enough vocab to speak about a variety of topics, including exercise, TV, tourism. You do have enough vocab to talk about that comfortably. There are some odd vocab choices, like do a shower, it feels me refreshed, something like this. But these don't impede understanding, so I can still understand you pretty easily. Even with those mistakes, it's still, quite easy to understand you. Sometimes there's too much repetition of bits of vocab. Enhance my knowledge, feels memorized. Transportation system, how you just use that. Accommodation, you just seem to be relying on those words a lot, so that felt like a little bit like it lacked flexibility. But so I'm between the 6 and the 7, but I'm going to go with the 7 overall for this. Grammatical range and accuracy, 5. Some examiners might even decide to give you a 4. Very possible. Unfortunately, you lack accuracy in the most basic and fundamental aspects of English grammar. Verb to be, present simple, time and tense, gerunds and infinitives. You just don't know, unfortunately, you just don't know this grammar. It's okay, doesn't make you a bad person, doesn't make you a stupid person, doesn't make you a bad English user, but you don't know grammar, and that's, something. If you want to get a high mark in IELTS, really forget about like using grammar in IELTS and just focus on learning some grammar. Pronunciation, I think I'm going to give 6 here. So in general, your pronunciation was clear. At times, you showed some good chunking. Like we were on a tight budget. Like sometimes the way that you grouped your words together was good. But at other times, your pronunciation sounded a little, what we say, mechanical. It sounded a little bit like this, just at times mechanical and lacking in intonation. Just at times, it just don't feel like we had quite enough for the 7. So you had some aspects of good intonation, some aspects of chunking, but maybe not enough over the test to get a higher score. Some words were mispronounced, like I think serene you mispronounced, serene and gorgeous I think you mispronounced, and other words were unintelligible. Not very often. Unintelligible means you just can't understand, but there were a couple of words in there that I just thought I just can't understand what you said. I think mostly with those place names of places in Bangladesh. Take care to pronounce those things like accurately and slowly and clearly, and then if needed, explain what those things are. Yeah, so areas of improvement. The first thing, grammar. A couple of points. Learn A2 grammar. Forget about B1, B2, C1, etc. You just have to learn that A2 grammar. If you can learn that A2 grammar, I really think if a student really knows A2 grammar perfectly, they'll get that score of like B2 in IELTS for grammar if they know the A2 grammar perfectly. But it's not easy. But, you have to 25% of the speaking test is grammar, and if your grammar is, I would say, objectively speaking, this candidate's grammar is at that A2 level. We just don't get. I've given him a score of 5 in this IELTS test, which is B1, but I think objectively the candidate has A2 level grammar, and really, really need to fix that. So forget about high grammar. Forget about range of grammar. Forget about trying to use a bunch of different grammatical constructions. Get the most basic things right, first of all. Secondly, in part 3, don't rely on you so much. To question, why do people do this? Don't say, I do this because da da da. What are some good things about this? Don't say, well, I like this. There's a difference between speaking personally and speaking generally. And unfortunately, you had some cases where in part 1, you were speaking generally, and then in part 3, you were speaking too personally. So keep in mind, part 1 is all about you. Part 3 is mostly about other people, other people, other people. And that should be reflected in your language. Yeah, and for part 2, learn a strategy that will help you cover all aspects inside 2 minutes. You should never need to rush in part 2. In IELTS part 2, you should never feel like, oh, I need to speak more quickly because I need to get all of my ideas in. If you feel like you have that problem, then your strategy is wrong. You don't know how to take the correct notes. You don't know how much development you should have. You don't know how much time you should spend on the like introductory statement and going through the first questions and then doing the last question. So you really doesn't matter exactly what strategy you use. There are many strategies out there, but you have to find a strategy and stick to it. Grammar is the key thing. You know, grammar will help boost your score a little bit higher. I think candidate has potential to get probably 6.5 in the real test. I don't think he'll get 7. I think he'll probably get 6.5, or but for me the performance in this test was 6.0. And I think that's fair. But I think my marking is always fair. I don't know. You let me know. Is my marking fair? Do you agree with the score of 6.5 for this performance? Again, I apologize for those audio issues, and again, it's nice to be back on YouTube. More videos coming soon. If you would like your own free practice speaking test with feedback, or if you would like to have your writing checked, then you can request this on my Telegram group, Expert Examiner. A link to this Telegram group will be given in the description below. I really hope my audio is okay. See you all again soon. Bye for now.